How's it going, dudes? Going off of global metrics, you will have completed about 25% of your life between the ages of 18 to 20 years old. Ooh, feel that panic start to set in? Well, let's package that bad boy up and sell it as a board game in the game of life, Quarter Life Crisis. Now with crippling debt. I can feel the quirky humor from this one approaching like a large beast over the horizon. The Game of Life Quarter Life Crisis is the 2018 title from the widely received parody of a classic line, where Hasbro redesigned some of their classic games into new, funny formats like Risk Office Politics and Monopoly Socialism. But while those caught my eye and made me think, nah, my friends and I actually saw this thing out in the wild and decided to purchase it because of what it was offering. But that happened many years ago, and if there's any omen of this one's quality, when I pulled it off of the shelf, it was completely covered in dust. Good sign. So in order to see what kind of nonsense is going on here, we're going to quite literally dust this thing off in order to run it through our usual categories, breaking down all the bits and bobs and comparing it to other Game of Life titles in order to answer one glaring question. Is this the worst version of the Game of Life? But before we see what your quarter life is like, let's see how good you are at preventing the end of your life with today's board game sponsor, Weretigers. Weretigers is a co-op dice defense game made by the same group behind Aldara, where you are trying to stop vicious weretigers from breaking into your village and devouring all your family and friends. Every Tuesday with these things. How the game works is you must use the dice you roll to prepare for the Weretigers' advance, scouting, building, or recruiting help as you adapt to your ever-changing situation. From what I've played, the game is going to constantly have you bouncing back and forth between, oh yeah, we've got this in the bag, and, good lord, what happened? The game is pretty simple to pick up once you get started, making it great for all ages as you try to work together to keep everything from falling apart. We managed to beat the standard game, so I tried out hard mode with the solo rules. And not to brag, but I did manage to win after only getting 20 people and 1 dog eaten and 2/3 of the village abandoned. Natural born leader, I know. Weretigers is launching its Kickstarter campaign on June 10th, so be sure to check it out and click notify me so that you're ready for when it goes up. And if you simply can't wait, try out the game right now on their official Tabletop Simulator port to see how you like it. This is so cool, all of the pieces snap into place. More games need to do this. Again, the Kickstarter begins on June 10th, so head down to the page below and check out everything that it has on offer. Thank you again to Weretigers for sponsoring this video, and now that you've survived the night, let's check out how that quarter life crisis is going by starting off with the game's design. The Game of Life Quarter Life Crisis carries quite a unique feel about it. Between the box, the board, and the cards, this is probably the first game that I would describe as crunchy? The sound of biting into a chip, yeah, that's how this game looks. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. It gives the game a very unique look and adds to the chaotic feel that they are going for. Remember that no matter what I say, the game did manage to convince me to buy it. And even though there was a bit of peer pressure in that decision, this automatically means that the design did its job. Got the compliments out of the way? Awesome. Let's talk about the humor. Remember 2018? No, you're thinking of 2015. Remember 2018. Quirky, self-deprecating humor mixed in with a twinge of worry was all the rage. And boy, this game leaned into that with every ounce of power it had. Life is hard. Will you lose your job, your spouse, or worst of all, the Wi-Fi? Get out of here, it's a meltdown! This poor aesthetic, in my downtrodden era, its giving poverty shtick permeates throughout the game, which they absolutely wanted in order to better relate to their target market at the time, aging partiers. Yes, Quarter Life Crisis is first and foremost a party game. Aiming to achieve something like For the Girls, some of the action cards contain dares that you can undertake in order to avoid negative effects. Some of these are the standard hypotheticals like who would you switch bodies with or who would you sacrifice to a giant spider, while others take the more digital route like showing everyone the last thing you searched online or taking a selfie and another player chooses who you send it to. Someone has had to have posted having a lit game night with the squad on LinkedIn and gotten fired for it. It has to have happened at least once. But enough about the theme, let's take a closer look at the board. As you can see here, the board takes the shape of a veritable spaghetti of interconnecting paths that you can choose from, just like in Target: The Game of Life. Man, these signs would look even better if I knew how to read. And to continue on with the Target similarities, plenty has been gutted from Standard Life in order to make room for all of the new and improved funny. The stop spaces, marriage, jobs, houses, and kids are all still here, but stocks, insurance, college, life tiles, and spaces each carrying their own effect are all gone. Lastly, to compensate for a smaller board, the spinner has been reduced from 10 to 6 slots. And for some reason, the stopper has also been removed and replaced by an arrow on the board that will point to the spun number. So the spinner will no longer make that iconic spinning sound that you associate with the Game of Life. You got a lot of nerve for that one, you know that? But that more or less covers the game's design. Not perfect, a few choices that I don't agree with, but like I said, the game got me to spend money on it naturally, so no matter what I think now, the design was a success. While the design does the heavy lifting in getting the game in your hands, your opinion on the game is going to mostly come from what you do in it. So let's bust out the rules of this bad boy and see what we're looking at under the hood. The rules for Quarter Life Crisis vary quite a bit from the standard game, if you couldn't tell by how pretty much everything is completely different. That being said, the rules really aren't that complicated, so let's check in with the handy rules brochure that was provided and plan our trip through this title. The aim of the game is to be the first player to pay off your soul-crushing debt, the total of which being a not too troublesome $500,000. How did you get here? What did you buy? 95,602 Red Baron pizzas. Oh, never mind. Great buy. Now, the game only has pieces for up to 4 players, but will definitely work with more. I remember once we just stuck the pegs in a McNugget and it worked just fine. Unlike the standard game, each player starts with a job and a rental house. No picking college or working your way up to those. We're already at quarter life here. Keep up. Everyone starts with 0 money, places their money tracker on 0, and the banker takes up his spot. Now we're ready to begin. Whichever player cried last is the one who goes first. Oh, that's not fair. Steve's dog just died 2 days ago. When you are up, you spin the joyless spinner and choose which direction that you will be going. We've got a variety of spaces on the board that will confer a myriad of effects, such as, if you pass payday or rent, you'll gain or lose money based on the job or house you have. If you land on one of the risky road spaces, you'll gain or lose money based on the space that you hit. And if you land on one of the orange spaces, you draw an action card. Technically, you are supposed to draw an action card no matter what space you land on, but we found that this makes the orange spaces even more useless than they already are, so that's a homebrew for you free of charge. One thing to keep in mind is that you are all terrible, and I mean horrible, drivers. To the point where if 2 players end up in the same square, they immediately get into a massive car crash that causes $10,000 in damages to each car. And guess what? None of you have car insurance, so that's $10K straight out of your pocket. Better turn off those top 10s and start looking at the road for once. Of course, the stop spaces make their return where hitting them will force you to stop and then spin again. But seeing as the board design will lead you to hitting them multiple times in one game, the effects have been altered slightly. House and Job simply have you draw 2 new cards from their decks to pick as your new one. There's some stellar places for you to rest your head on offer. You can crash with a relative or friend, enjoy a Farley reference, or just decide to lose the game, up to you. Also make sure that you grab one of the surprisingly well-paying jobs for the theme, especially when the personal injury lawyer makes about the same as the fitness guru, the pro gamer, or the social media influencer. $70K a year? Yeah, I wish. The spouse card allows you to add one of those wives that you've heard so much about to your car, which is the optimal play to go for because getting married directly increases your salary by a considerable amount. Wait a minute, you're single? Oh, Linda, dock this man's pay. While this is good the first time around, you really don't want to go here again, as another visit to the spouse space will cause you to immediately get divorced. The renewed vows did not go well. Finally, the babies mechanic has been condensed into its own stop space. Where hitting this will allow you to see how many babies that you get, as well as the amount of baby shower money that is sent your way. And while this financial boon might have you thinking about min-maxing your fertility to shoot for triplets, this only happens on your first stop, as any future hit of the baby space will instead force you to pay $20,000 of childcare for every kid in your car. So you aren't getting away with any public assistance kid spam strat here. But with all of these crazy effects going on, how are you supposed to keep track of how much money you have? Well, you could just count it. It's simple, really. At the end of each of your turns, you move your money tracker piece on the outside square to match the current amount of money you have. An ingenious solution to an aching problem. Just count your money! This outside ring is obscenely stupid. It offers nothing besides a way to show everyone how much money each player has, which is done by just having the cash out in front of you anyway. Now, there is an interesting way that they could have used the tracker, which I'll bring up later, but in its current form, it's just much redundant. Of course, we can't just simply ignore the main draw of the title, those action cards, which come in 3 forms based on their effects. You have your standard cards, which will bestow some kind of bonus or penalty, the penalty cards, which will grant a longer lasting penalty that remains on you until a condition is met, and the best one on offer, the dare cards. The dare cards are like standard negative cards, but give you the opportunity to avoid them if you simply complete the dare at the bottom of the card, which will usually entail a hypothetical, a story, or an embarrassing display. Forfeit the dare and you get hit with the effect, but complete the dare and you get to choose another player that will get hit with that negative, meaning that smelling another player's foot will grant you the opportunity to instantly end another person's marriage. Be careful of how you speak to me, or I might have to unleash the nose. Of course, if you really want to get into the financial drowning lifestyle, then you might as well go all in by adding some more loans onto your debt. If you can't make a payment at any point, you'll have to ask the banker for some loans to cover the rest. These come at $10,000 apiece, and you'll need to pay them off before you can win the game. But if you're in the position that you're taking multiple of these out, I think winning is the least of your concerns now. And as for winning, if anyone has the needed $500,000 at the end of a turn, they win by officially achieving a net worth of 0. Hurrah! Something to keep in mind is that the rules say at the end of a turn, not your turn. So if you cross that threshold on someone else's turn, that is still a win for you, or a tie if they also get there, which would be a really funny out-of-left-field event that the rules have no solution for. And that is the whole brochure. We'll get more in-depth with some of the cards and effects later, but for now, that will conclude our look at the rules. So now that we know what we are doing, let's take a peek into how it feels to do it by jumping into this sucker's phenomenal gameplay. TGOL-QLC's gameplay is one of its strongest suits. With movement that fits the game as well as decision-making that works well with the other mechanics like trading and combat, this deck builder is really going to have you questioning whether or not you can make it through the store for the lowest possible price and determine who is really Hitler. Sorry, had a bit of a stroke there. Game of life spin spinner, wait for something to happen. This bad boy is all luck. Luck with the number you spin, luck with the cards you draw, and luck with how many times you get T-boned on your drive home. Now, while the result is straight on luck, you can help yourself out a bit by making decisions on which stop spaces to go for in order to shore up some of your weaker areas. Yes, you'll need to get lucky, but losing 30 grand less every time you hit rent won't hurt either. Of course, if you're out there buying this thing, then you're not likely in it for that hot game of life action. You're in it for the dares and making your friends say or do funny things, which the cards manage to do, but less frequently than you would think, although that does make it a little more special when one pops up. But I'd have to say overall, the gameplay leaves a lot to be desired. There is more decision making in the movement, sure, but not much else besides that. All of the other choices are just choose better number than wait for your next turn. This is a real disappointment because they had all of the pieces in place to fix this, they just didn't. In fact, I'm going to enact my airing of grievances time in order to say my piece about the parts that I think could have been much better. The money track is practically pointless in how it operates now, but if instead of it just tracking your current money level, it instead represented your debt and you had to spend your money to advance your piece, that would be something. Another thing, not every job needs a side gig. It makes them less special when everyone has one. Instead, have the high-paying jobs keep that high salary, but give the low-paying jobs a side gig as they risk the lower base pay with the chance of it making a ton of money if their number gets spun a bunch. It also makes much more sense with the lore, too. Why does someone making $100,000 a year need a side gig? Where do they live? Monaco? The houses having another effect so that you automatically don't just shoot for the lowest number would also be cool, but this one is a lot tougher as since you are renting these places out, there's not a lot you could do with them while keeping up the theme. You could add a crime system where the lower the rent, the worse the area and the more your car gets broken into, but this would add a whole other mechanic to keep track of and would probably be too much for the party setting we're in, so bah! And this last one is less of a complaint and more of a challenge. If you want to make the game take longer, start everyone with no jobs. In the labor shortage start, everyone is going to have to gun it for the job space or start bleeding cash due to the rent and card costs, which will of course cause a ton of car crashes, what with everyone being on the same path, overall causing a ton of chaos and debt. As expected, with the board being the way that it is, this one plays pretty similar to Target the Game of Life, but with less heavy mechanics and more social elements, which depending on what you consider fun, could be a nightmare. But just how much of a nightmare and for whom? That's what we'll be figuring out when we take a look at the most important portion of these titles, the game's fun factor. Now, I know I've been harping on the Target comparisons, but let's be fair here. This game is nowhere near as dull as that farce of a Game of Life game. At the same time, I would not describe this as edge-of-your-seat action either. Let's get into it. For the Dare cards, they accomplish what they set out to do. A variety of challenges, most of which are a little embarrassing. And for the Shire folk, you are able to cop out if it's just too much. Fun side activity that impacts the game in a meaningful way, these get a thumbs up, well done. It's the parts between the cards that are the problem. In regular life, every space has its own effect that gives you the chance to see what lies ahead, which builds anticipation and dread as you wait to see which one you are going to get. Here, all you can do is wait for the next card as you try to get to the next stop, which results in a lot of dead time between the turns. The game knows this too. After your turn is over, it says to just stare at your phone or whatever while the next person goes, which I know is meant to be a joke, but that's just true. I highly recommend that you go down the risky road whenever you can, as even though it could end up being a huge miss, you and everyone else will get to have that anticipation build up as they wonder what's gonna happen to you. Everywhere else, it's just not there. As such, those who will enjoy this one are likely going to be that crew that really enjoy the social board game genre, the party challenge games that are meant to make you laugh at your friends. As a disclaimer though, there are better games out there if this is what you are going for. For the Girls is a good option that ticks all the same boxes, or you could go for Truth Bombs if you're planning on making someone sad. As for those who probably won't like this one, I'd say those who aren't a fan of the challenge type game, or just those that like a little meat to their games. This one's pretty shallow. And before I spout off the final conclusion, let's take a look at the whack crap on display in this one, which for Quarter Life Crisis manifests in the different cards that you will be drawing in the game. Let's start off with some of the wonderful employment opportunities that you could be looking forward to. You've got all of your normal career paths, like barista, artesian cheese maker, and assistant to the assistant manager, but what we really want to be looking at are the side gigs that you can take on thanks to the skills that you've acquired from your main job. For example, having to make stuff up on the fly as a customer service representative makes you a great interpretive dancer. Bringing those parasocial friendships in as a podcast host makes you a great friend for hire. Being able to make up titles with little meaning like this thing prepares you well for your time as an executive consultant. Your knowledge from being a history teacher sets you up great for your work as a conspiracy theorist. Oh, you guys have been getting paid for that? I'm getting ripped off here. The interns and personal injury lawyer share a similar path, as the intern sidelines as a gold digger while the lawyer takes the much more distinguished professional snuggler role. The rideshare driver hears a lot of crap on their drives anyway, so they might as well become an online certified therapist while they're at it. And finally, the web designer work has given you plenty of insight into internet culture, allowing you to slide perfectly into the role of professional troll. Now see, this one should have had a different effect. Something like every time you make someone mad, you get 20k. That would be entertaining. But the entertainment doesn't stop there, as we've also got the action cards, which carry all kinds of dares that you could get slapped with at any time, such as gaze deeply into another player's eyes for 30 seconds, hold hands with another player until your next turn, flex your abs to everyone. That is just not a punishment for some people. Name which player you'd want to switch bodies with. Tell which player you'd sacrifice to a giant spider and why. Stand with your face to the wall in shame until your next turn. Silent treatment. Refuse to talk to anyone until your next turn. If you slip up, you have to get divorced. Not in the game, in real life. A lot is on the line. Show everyone the last thing you searched online. Post having a lit game night with the squad on the social media site of your choice. Take a goofy selfie. The player to your right decides who you have to send it to. And send the last photo you took to the last person you texted. No explanation. Well, this is gonna be a tough one to unravel. And that should be everything. So with all of the info now behind us, we can finally answer the question that we posed way back at the start of the video. Is Quarter Life Crisis the worst version of the game of life? No, and it's not even close. This game is aggressively mediocre. Not bad enough to make you hate yourself like some other titles out there, but not quite at the heights of the regular game. Just yeah. I mean, the cards are fine, but there's just so much dead air. And while the theme isn't too bad, it just doesn't pull enough of the weight to get this thing above water level, so it just starts to drown. If I'm being honest, I think the original Game of Life is a better party game than this one. Sure, the challenges are neat, but the original is more consistent with its moments while still not taking a lot of focus. Plus, which one is a better moment? Having a player name who they'd want to switch bodies with, or Steven getting shaken down by the orphans for the 4th time in a row? Leave me alone! The best way to describe it is, I have had friends ask if we'd like to play it again, but unless a specific mood has already been reached, we're going to select something else. And in case you forgot about the dust from earlier, that mood does not get hit very often. It's not horrible, it just doesn't do enough. But as a benefit, it is a very short game, so you won't be subjected to it for very long. But if you are going to be taking this one on, then you're going to want to make sure that your plans are all in place to give you the best shot at winning. So let's go over some of the strategies that you'll want to keep in mind if you're looking to secure the bag. Obvious stuff out of the way first, when you have to pick between two cards, you're gonna want to take the higher paying job and the lower rent. This'll gradually get you more money throughout the game, simple as. But with everything else mostly being based on the cards you draw, your only other strategy is going to be tied to the path you decide to take on the board in order to set yourself up for success. Once you start off, you're going to want to go straight for the spouse space. Increases the money that you get from your job, and the path will give you 2 paydays with only 1 rent. From there, a crossroads. Do you like your current job? It has its ups and downs. If you do, head on over to the risky road. Less cards being drawn gives you less chances to lose it. If you don't, head over to stop job and hope for a better one. Regardless of your choice, the next question asked is, do you like your house? Are we talking just the house, or does location matter too? No, head on over to Stop House. You'll either be getting 3 paydays and 1 rent, or nothing, and by the grace of the Lord, a better house. But after this, or if you did like your house, then head on over to Stop Babies to birth some children and nab that sweet government child incentive. From here, you are officially set up. So either go back to the main circle for consistency, or back over to Risky Road to go for the win. As a disclaimer though, any future Risky Roads from here on will cost you something, be that money, house, job, or wife. But hey, at least I get to keep the Wi-Fi! This message is brought to you by the Millennial Humor Association. Lastly, if playing by my rules, try to land on as few orange spaces as possible. More of them carry negative effects than positive, so that'll be a compounding risk throughout the game. And if you get one, do a dare whenever you can, but if you can't, then the penalties aren't too bad. They just start to add up over time. Really, in order to win this game, you are going to need to get lucky. There's no getting around that. But remember that the key to luck is putting yourself in a position where if that luck happens, you're gonna run away with it. And that's what we call skill-based gameplay. Overall, would I still say to buy this game? Probably not. We've played it maybe 2 to 3 times over the last couple years, but I guess if you've got a $15 eBay gift card, there are worse things that you could spend it on. Like I said, there are better party games out there, and if you're looking for some hot life action, the original still remains as one of the best ones for fans. Those orphans are just unstoppable. But at the very least, it does achieve some of the things that it sets out to do. Which is not only better than most of the games I've covered, it also places it firmly into first place out of every Game of Life game I've purchased at Target. I have really got to find a new place to buy these things. Signing off for my 3/4 life crisis, I am KamSandwich. Thank you for watching and have a fantastic day. A special thank you to my suppliers, staff, and chefs over at the deli, as well as the media preservers helping me get these rare games ported for the public to enjoy. If you'd like to join the crew, you can take a look using the link in the description below.